Well, hello everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome along to your afternoon rabble here on the Rangers Rabble Podcast. Just myself today, so we're going to do things slightly differently. Again, apologies to normal regular viewers. Normally, this is 12:30. My daughter had a school show. It ran well over the allotted time, as these school shows do. So this was the earliest that I could get on. That and the unfortunate internet issues seem to be striking again in the old Hamilton. So hopefully it bears with me for what will either be a very short recap show, slightly different to your normal viewing, or it will be the full half hour if we get some calls in. Because as I'm on my own, I don't really want to be sitting here talking to myself for half an hour. So, if you're not busy, if you want to get your point across about Rangers, then by all means call the show now. This is usually reserved for our 10 o'clock members phoning. But since I'm on myself, why not try and get a few calls in 0141 628 7237 if you want to get through to the show. Help me out a wee bit as well by getting your points across. I've not done a public phone in for a while, so it'll be good to hear some different voices and some people who want to get their points across. So, where do we start today? Well, Max Aaron's now. I've seen a wee bit about this. No, I wasn't looking at my phone while at my daughter's school show. That would be irresponsible, and that would not be good parenting. So, no, this wasn't during that. But by all accounts, Rangers are extremely interested. I don't know. I only had got a quick glimpse at it, but I did see a picture from his agency, which appeared to be at Ibrox. So it would appear that talks are well down the line, and it looks like somebody that we're going to be bringing in to the club. Now, the bigger question is Max Aarons is a right back who can play left back. We'll delve a little bit into his stats in a wee second and his injury history, which I know a lot of you will want to know. But the bigger question is he coming in? Because he's not coming in on loan for Valencia to play second fiddle and not get a game. So is he coming in to replace Tav? Or is he coming in to give Jeffy a hand because either Yilmaz is leaving or if he isn't leaving, he'll be injured anyway for the majority of the season. So it'll be interesting to see. Does that mean that Tav's time is up? Or is it just basically to give Tav a bit of a rest, a bit more rotation, see if we can get a bit more out of him? I am not sure. I would imagine it's the latter that he's coming in. He'll probably play the majority of the games. Tav might even move into centre back to help out there if we're going to be playing ball playing centre backs. Tav might move inside. Like I say, he might be over on that left hand side to help out Jeffy next season. There is a lot of reports that Radvan Yilmaz is very much wanted back in Turkey, so it'll be interesting to see if quite possibly Radvan leaves the football club as well. It just gives us another option and a very good option at that. Now, Max Aarons is 25 years old. He is technically a right back. Um, Injury wise, he had zero injuries last year, which is always good, which is always a positive. However, in season 23-24, whilst he was at Bournemouth, he missed 15 games due to a hamstring injury. He was out from, I think it was November to December, and then he was out for January as well, right through to March. So I think he missed in total about 100 odd days, missing 15 games. He had a small ankle injury while at Norwich. But out with that, hamstring injuries can happen to anybody. So out with that, he's not got an extensive injury record, which is good to know. Hamstring injuries, however, aren't fantastic, to be honest. Um, Hamstrings like fine china. Well, he's only been out. I suppose it was two separate hamstring injuries, but he got through all of last season without any. So hopefully, that's good for us. Gordon Old Tav's legs have gone. He does not fit into Martin's football ideology. I don't. I mean, yeah, I get that going rogue in terms of the ability to constantly close down and constantly be on the move and constantly running. I get that maybe maybe target that way. But in terms of like a ball playing centre back where you don't have to do as much running as maybe his midfielders or his strikers or whatever, maybe, just maybe, he might be used in that regard. Somebody has just popped into the bottom of my screen. I'm just waiting on the video to pop up, and we might be joined by a guest. I'm not sure. Um, yes, William. William, how you doing?
I did message you to see if you wanted my help, but you never get back to me, so you're obviously too busy.
Was there any possibility that I was live at the time you messaged me?
No, I'm pretty sure I did message you before it, but you're obviously just so busy these days that you're too good for everybody.
Don't you start, mate. Don't you start. Max Aarons, Wally, what's your thoughts?
Well, I actually managed to get a wee look at some of the kind of video footage last night. I know that's, not great because a lot of it's put on to show that he's good qualities, but yeah, I think he's probably the right type of fit. He's a good age. He probably kind of fits the bill in that he's maybe kind of lost his way a little bit. So maybe there's one of those moves that might help Rangers, bring down the transfer fee. I think a loan with an option to buy or a mandatory purchase would probably make sense. It gives us a chance to look at him while he can have a look at the league and decide if he wants to stay in Scottish football for more than a year, I suppose.
Yeah, and I take it you had a wee look at the hamstring issues he had as well while he was at Bournemouth, Wally. Nothing last season, so maybe we don't have to quite go down the, oh, he's injury prone route.
I think the thing is, mate, see when you look at all of these explosive fullbacks, most of them are going to have some type of issues. You don't run at that pace and that power that for such a long period of time and not pick up injuries. That's just the reality of playing football at this level. So you're going to have to expect players to pick up injuries. Unfortunately, we seem to pick up guys that don't just pick up like 2 3 week injuries. We pick up guys that are like 3 4 5 months injuries, and I mean that's the thing. I've said it to a lot of the guys round about me in the enclosure that I really do believe that Dujon Sterling's a very very good player. However, he misses so much football that it's such a frustration because you can see the qualities there, but we really need people that are reliable over a 50, 60 game season because that's what we expect to play over a normal season if you're doing well in the cup competitions and in Europe.
Yeah, yeah, very, very true. Something's just flashed up there while on my Twitter. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this. I certainly haven't.
Right,
Club 1872 have
right.
had a meeting with Andrew Kavanagh and the executive team. Now, I haven't had a chance to go through it. I don't know if you've seen it. Um, but I suppose that's something that's not really been mentioned much is with the new ownership coming in, where'd the Club 1872 stand?
Do you know what, mate? It's been that long since we've actually spoke about them in any shape or form. I actually wasn't too sure if they were actually still around, to be totally honest. Um, Look, I don't have a problem with them, potentially trying to talk to the new ownership, but I do kind of wonder what they bring to the table now compared to maybe where they were 3 4 5 6 even 10 years ago. I think that's the problem. Um, I'm not really too sure what they have in terms of power. I'm not really too sure what they expect the new owners to give them. So it would be interesting to actually get a gauge as to what they actually want from this. And our supporters going to get back involved again. I think it felt like for quite a while there, nobody was really that bothered about putting money back into it anymore, which is a bit of a sad state of affairs given what they actually did when it was first kind of set up.
Well, in terms of, like you say, their power and the ability to make change, voting and stuff like that, with the shares that Club 1872 have got, they've got a very, very, very small voice.
I know, mate, and that's the thing. I actually genuinely don't know what they're hoping to gain out of this, other than maybe a wee bit of sort of publicity potentially. But I think from my side, it's maybe just one of those ones where they're trying to kind of get their name back out there to see if they can maybe gauge some more, sort of people to come back and maybe put their money back into it again. I think with the new ownership, it's unlikely that, we'll see what happened all those years ago. And obviously hope to God that doesn't happen clearly. But I think in terms of Club 1872, they're just on the outside looking in now, and I'd be very, very surprised if anything actually comes out of it, to be honest.
Yeah. Lyndon's asking, what's that noise? That'll probably be Wally's phone. Um, letting them know that he's got a message. Well, I don't think that many people realise this, William, but you're a very important man.
I wouldn't go that far, to be honest with you, but especially when it comes to my wife, she says I'm probably the biggest idiot in the world, but she's probably no far wrong with that comment, to be honest.
No, she's really not. She's really not. Listen, talking about injuries and players possibly coming in, Kwame Puku.
I'm glad you said that and no me, to be honest.
So am I. Well, his stats are good, like 12 goals, 11 assists in 31 games. He lit up the championship, the League One, sorry, with Peterborough last season, it's fair to say. However, he did miss again 23 games last season. Well, he missed with that dreaded hamstring injury.
You know what? It's obviously one of those things that, I mean, yet again, when you play that kind of style of football, it's difficult not to pick up injuries, but clearly we're kind of trying to move away from that, potentially, given the issues we've had with guys like Tom Lawrence, who, well, there's no doubt Tom Lawrence was an excellent footballer. You can see that with some of the things he could do, but yet again, he couldn't stay fit. You look at Oscar Cortez, he's basically missed the majority of his time at Rangers due to injury. We really need sort of reliability, don't we? We need people to come in, hit the ground running. We need people to be able to play 15, 20, 30 games on the spin without missing too much football. Yes, we can rest and recuperate guys from time to time, but at the end of the day, we do need people to stay fit. That should be all and end all, regardless of whatever anybody else thinks.
Yeah, and especially if you're bringing someone like Poku, and hopefully it was just a one-off injury, and he doesn't get it again. But that possibility is always there. We've got Cortez at the football club, Wally, who's spent the best part of 2 years sitting on his couch, injured. Danilo, who's been out for a long time with injury. John Suter, who's quite injury prone. There's still a lot of players around about the football club still there that are quite injury prone.
Yeah, look, it's a real problem for us, mate. See, for all we've been disappointed in the last 2 years at times, see when everybody's fit, we actually are a pretty good team. However, we see it so little because we can't seem to keep players fit. That is a real problem. If you look at Ridvan can't stay fit, but there's no doubt in his ability. He is a good fullback. To John Sterling, his versatility over the course of a season should be really important to Rangers. But yet again, can't stay fit. Obviously, we signed Casa for Feyenoord. He broke down, missed the majority of the season. Tom Lawrence missed the majority of the season. Obviously, Danilo's been injured, missed a large part of the season. I mean, it's actually easier to name players who haven't been injured, because it's become a bit silly, to be honest, hasn't it? We've had so many injuries that you start to question, are we doing the right things at training? Or, like, do we have the right people in the club to look at it, the sports scientists, physios, doctors? Because it just never seems to end. And for any Rangers manager that wants to be successful, we need to keep the majority of players fit. That's just how it has to be moving forward.
Yeah, but looking on the positives, then if we do get Poku in, 100 and I've got it here. Hold on, 147 games for Peterborough all in, 30 goals, 30 assists. Like I say, well, he lit up League One apparently last season from what I'm hearing. If we do manage to get him, it would appear it'd be a bit of a coup for the club.
Yeah, look, I think Peterborough are absolutely fantastic at finding players from the lower leagues, sometimes the non-league as well. They've done that really well over the years. Darren McAnthony seems to do this so often, and they seem to make a lot of money from so many players. I think one of their other players actually just moved to a team in Germany the other day there as well. So, they obviously are very good at recruiting whatever way they do it. In terms of this lad, when you look at his skill set, I'm not a big stats guy, but you can't help but be impressed with the numbers that he's put up over his time. His age, yet again, kind of ticks the bill a bit like Aaron's. There's obviously not really going to be any compensation paid on him as well, which is a big thing. But yeah, and again, that probably pushes the wages up a little. But yeah, I think when you look at like Aaron's and you look at Poku, they definitely are players that tick the box for resale value. if you can get them in the door and get them, playing at a good level. And if Rangers are doing well in Scotland and they're doing reasonably well in Europe, it certainly helps us move players on then for bigger and better value, and it allows us to then spend that money to then hopefully recruit again.
And listen, see League One in England. There's some real gems in there, Willie. There's players you can pick up in there for next to nothing and sell and get a handsome fee for if you're looking in the right places. I hate to
Look,
I hate to bring them up, right? I really
yeah,
do.
yeah,
You look at Matt O'Reilly. What was it?
yeah.
1.5 million, I think they bought him for. Was it MK Dons or something? Or one of the clubs anyway in League One? 25 million.
I mean, see, at the end of the day, I still think he's probably one of the best midfield players they've had in the last 10, 15 years. I thought he was probably their best player consistently whenever I watched us play against Celtic. I think he's a far better player than Engels, and that's saying something for a guy that costs the level of money that he has. It's all about trying to get value, isn't it? It's about looking for the right kind of players who you think you can improve and develop. And that's clearly one of the reasons that Russell Martin's here, because he is the sort of guy that does allow young players to come in and improve and develop, and they can work in the training field, they can get stuff out on the pitch. And look, see, no matter what anybody says, see, when a team's winning football games, things will always be better. The crowd will be happier, the club's happier, the players are happier. And at the end of the day, when you're winning games, that's when you can sell players for more and more money.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're playing in the Champions League, when you're doing well in Europe, when you're successful in your own league, that's what allows you to then move somebody on for 15, 20 million pounds, which is what we're hoping to do with players like Raskan, with Eagleman, with Diamande, etc. These are guys we need to do well, because we need to recruit money, and then we need to use that money to bring in the next batch of players that can do that the next time around and the next time around.
Yeah. And some people are asking in the comments there. Max Aarons it's a loan. It's a loan signing. It's not
Yeah.
a permanent signing, because I think Aarons is valued at somewhere between 6 and 10 million or something like
Yeah,
that.
look, I think it would come down to one of those ones where I've no doubt Rangers will want to try and put some type of purchase in it. But it comes down to how well he does. Look, see if Russell Martin can have a pretty successful season at Rangers, and Max Aarons is a big part of that, and the club can then sign him in a permanent transfer. There's nothing. I mean, this might sound ludicrous to some people because they might not like this, but it does happen. You could probably sign the guy next summer for whatever the fee is that's arranged on it, but then sell him for a higher amount.
Mm-hmm.
Because clubs do that all over Europe now. It seems to happen more and more where, the player will sign a permanent deal and then he'll be sold that same summer. Because sometimes you can double your money in the space of a month. And for a club like Rangers, this is what we're going to be moving forward. Whether people like that or not, that is where Rangers are. And we will continue to sell good players, because it's what we have to do. There's not enough money in the Scottish League. And unless you're playing in the Champions League every single season, which at the moment, obviously, we're not, you're forced into selling players to make sure that you can recruit, the summer after that and the summer after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody put something in the comments there, and I genuinely thought that Rangers had announced something, but they haven't. Somebody's just put in the comments, the first signing's confirmed. It's Oscar Cortez. He's now officially a Rangers player. And I'm looking for the announcement on Twitter, like a right tube.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if the club do confirm him like that, because obviously at the end of the day, this is him officially signing for Rangers now.
Mm-hmm.
Because he officially signs as a permanent Rangers player this summer. Just like Lyle Cameron, there will probably be some type of announcement at some point.
Well, there should be. There's got to be for the football club, boy. They've got to announce them.
Well, you would think so. So, I mean, like, for all the moaning, and I know some people probably aren't happy about it, but that is two guys who will officially be Rangers players this summer. So, you could argue that we have already signed two players. Whether the manager and the ownership are happy about the £4 million for Cortez, I don't know. I wouldn't imagine they are, given the amount of football he's missed. But
they won't be happy.
That is two guys that Rangers are now going to add to the books. And given the squad we've already got already of players that have returned for loans, the squad's pretty bulky for all the players we actually have already got moved on this summer. You still get guys there like Kieran Dowell, like Ben Davies, like obviously Cifuentes. They've all returned for loans. and they're going to come back and join the squad. Then you add in Cortez on a permanent deal, and then you add in also Lyle Cameron, who's now going to be signing his contract if he's not already done all that. So it's a hell of a big squad, mate. And I see for all the people that are screaming for bodies to come in, we also need bodies to get out because we can't carry that size of squad. Because let's be honest with it, most of these guys probably aren't going to be at Rangers come the end of the transfer window.
No, no. Very good question here, actually, by the way, for Jimbo. Just going back to something that we spoke about a wee bit earlier. Do we question some of the players in regards to injuries? Do some of them take a little longer to come back, given how all over the place their form has been?
Yeah.
Can we look at some of the players, Willie?
I think you've got to question sometimes the mentality of some players when it comes to injuries. Like, did it take too long to return from them? Somebody like Kamar Roof, you've got to think some of that's mental. The amount of times that he broke down. In terms of, all right, I mean, let's be honest with it, any player can get a bad injury and he can miss 6 months of the year. It can happen to any player at any time in his career. We just seem to sign guys that don't seem to cope well with the physical nature of Scottish football. And that's something that needs to now be taken into consideration when we do sign players. Because for all of the quality that a player can have, he needs to be able to get involved in the physical battle. Because you know that when you rock up to certain places in Scotland, they're going to put every high ball into the box. They're going to put it on top of the goalkeeper. They're going to get physical. They'll be late in the tackle. They'll leave a little bit in. And see, for guys that aren't used to that, that's not really something we need. We need guys to almost come in and hit the ground running. We need probably one or two big physical sort of commanding players, centre half, central midfield. And it's something that's going to have to be looked at with the new director of football. I think we have lacked one or two real powerful, strong players in the team that can really get us through some games, because far too often we have been bullied by teams, and that's not something you would ever thought you would say about a Rangers team, to be honest.
That's probably one of the main reasons that Cotton's away, to be honest.
I think they have been a bit.
Well, he brought some decent players into the football club. He brought some good players into the football club, but he also brought a lot of players into the club, Willie, that is exactly what you've just said, weak and not suited to Scottish football.
No, and these are things that, obviously Steinson's in the background. He obviously kind of works between Leeds and Rangers. He'll obviously be involved in some of the processes that are going to be happening in the coming weeks. But yeah, look, there's absolutely no doubt we need to add some powerhouses, some big, strong players who can really dominate games, who can take the game by the scruff of the neck. And then, obviously, by doing that, you can allow your better players to get on the ball and hurt the opposition. So there's got to be a happy medium between adding genuine quality in terms of the creativity, the technique, but you still need one or two big powerhouses that can come into the team and make a difference. We need a centre half that's going to go and win every header.
Yeah.
We need a centre half that's going to be dominant. We probably need a number 6 who is almost going to be that extra defender from set players, because that happens in Scotland when balls come into the box. We need more players to attack the ball. And yet again, when you lose somebody like Cyril Dessers, he is somebody that does get back and defend for set pieces. So if you're going to lose somebody like Dessers, you need somebody else back there that's going to pick up that extra centre half or that extra midfield player that might make the difference come set plays. Because in modern football, set pieces are a massive part of the game.
Yeah, huge. And we've been dreadful at them for how long? We've been so bad.
I'll be totally honest with you, mate. It's something that needs to be rectified this summer. Whether Rangers need to appoint a set-piece coach or we need to spend more time in the training ground, that's something that needs to be rectified massively this summer. If Rangers want to be successful in Scotland and in Europe more, we need to stop losing so many poor goals from set-pieces. It happened far too often last season and the season before. And if we don't sort that problem out, we'll continue to lose poor goals and lose games of football because we can't stop simple crosses into the box, or we can't defend our box,
or even score for them, or score for set pieces. That would be nice. If we could get that going again. There's a mad tactic you can use in Football Manager that guarantees you score for a corner. Can we not just take that into next season?
I think the one thing is now, see when you look at the amount of top clubs in Europe now that have a genuine set piece coach, a genuine guy who all he does is work on set pieces. I'm not saying we should go out and pay £1 million to get somebody like, but I think we need to find somebody that specialises in that, and it needs to be worked on during the pre-season because clearly it's a failing and it's something that does need to be rectified if we want to improve.
Yeah. No, 100% it is. 100% it is. Right, I've had a few more comments again on this, Wally, right? It's something that I've spoke about quite a few times, but I'm more than happy to get your thoughts on it. So for Blue Tie channel member, why is Martin not looking for a new keeper to suit his style of play? Surely Butland isn't the man to be playing out from the back. Now, number one, we don't know if Rangers are looking at a goalkeeper or not, Wally, right? That's number one. And number two, I think he's spot on in terms of this playing out for the back. But are we maybe putting too much emphasis on playing out for the back and ignoring Butland's qualities as a goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think your first point's probably the most valid one. Nobody actually knows who we are trying to sign because there's been so many rumours on Twitter that you don't know how much substance there is to them. You know, even since he first came in the door, I think we've been linked with maybe 7 or 8 players, but how many of those are actually genuine? How many of those have the club actually put an offer on the table for? Do you know what I mean? This is the thing. At the moment, as I said, I think the other day, I do expect 1 or 2 new players to be in, and I think it will happen. But I think the club at the moment are very much trying to keep things in house. You know, they don't want everybody knowing what their business is. I think in the past that was a big problem for Rangers, that things were being leaked all over the place. Every bit of news, every headline that was coming out of the club, and that's not how a club like Rangers football should be. You know, we shouldn't be having everything all over social media. See, when we announce a signing, that should be the first time somebody knows about it. Because business can be done quietly if it's done the right way and by
Yeah,
the right
look,
people.
aye. If we're about, for example, if we're about to see if we're in discussions right now with Max Aarons, right,
Yeah,
which we are because it's been there's been certain people within sort of the media and Rangers fan media who have been given the heads up, right? I've got no issue with Rangers going to Heart and Hand or Four Lads or the Rangers Review an hour or two before they announce it and go, get yourself ready, get your shows all set up because we're about to
yeah.
announce the signing of a player. I've not got any issue with that, Wally. But what was happening before was any question that was getting, before this new board came in, any question that was getting asked about any player, Rangers were just giving out the information. Yeah, we're interested. No, we're not interested. Yeah, we're close. No, we're not close.
See, I don't like that. I really, I think, I think the club should have certain standards when it comes to that type of thing, and it means that we shouldn't be doing it. Quite simply, I would like to think that the new ownership and the new people in house will stop that straight away, and obviously anything that does come out will come directly from the club just before it's confirmed. I mean, don't get me wrong, like agents will always kind of drop news headlines to people, won't they? It's just part of the game, whether people like it or not. But in the main, like Rangers should always be in control of everything that's going on. And the big thing that we need to put in place is that once a signing's in place, everything's done. You know, there's none of this 2, 3, 4 days later, and it's kind of just slowly getting there. I don't have a problem that there's not always names linked because to me that means the club are doing something in the background, and that's how it should be done. You know, rather than every name being spread all over social media and people saying, "Oh, he's good enough, he's not good enough," you know. And I never really understand that. Like people will write off a signing before he's actually played a game. Like I find that absolutely crazy. That anybody can do that because you just never know. I mean, I remember the summer that we signed all the top players, and then all of a sudden Rod Wallace rocked up,
Mm.
and I remember people like, "Why are we signing Rod Wallace? What's he going to do?" When Rod Wallace ended up probably being the best signing of the summer. It didn't cost a penny.
Probably
And scored
one of Rangers' greatest ever signings for free.
You know, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, you look at the kind of year or two's round about that, the Van Bronckhorst, the Kinchelskis, all of these guys had all joined, and all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, we've agreed a free transfer with Rod Wallace." Everybody's like, "What? We've signed Rod Wallace, but is he going to be a backup?" He ended up basically playing every game. He was a huge part of the team winning league titles and winning cups. I mean, that's why you should never write a player off without actually seeing him in a blue jersey
Yep,
and
giving
seeing
them
how
a
he copes.
chance.
Of course, mate, 100%.
Giving them a chance. Absolutely. Well, Wally, thank you very much for jumping on. I was beginning to repeat myself when I was on myself whilst I
I
was making
noticed
a
you were
phone call.
struggling, mate. I didn't want to see you struggle like that. You know, I feel sorry for you when you're like that.
Well, I'm a newbie at this, so I'm just trying to find my feet, you know.
A pleasure to help, mate. I just happened to be in the house after coming home from work, and I thought I'll come and give my hand, you know.
See, that is how generous you are. So thank you very much. Listen,
Pleasure, mate.
folks, please do, if you're watching on YouTube, please do give us a like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, if you want to see more. We're on every single day, folks. Sometimes we're on multiple times a day. In fact, most days we're on multiple times a day. And if you want to help out the show as well any further, then you can check out the Rabble shop, links to which are in the description. Or you can become a member. All the live video member stuff is on YouTube, and then the rest is uploaded in audio form to Patreon. So again, Wally, thank you very much. Thank you everybody in the comments. Thank you for all the continued support, and we shall speak very, very soon.